everybody. Today you join me on a beautiful day in October. I've just jumped into my Lotus Exige V6 and I'm heading down to Silverstone racetrack. I do have to make a short apology if the introduction to my video was a little bit misleading, because the reason I'm going to Silverstone is not to race my car but to go to Lotus Silverstone, the official dealer, because they've kindly invited me to go and have a look at the new Exige Sport 350. Now that is the new version of the Exige V6 S that I'm driving now. So we're off to Silverstone Lotus. Well, I've just arrived at the Lotus Silverstone dealership, and I have to say, if you like Lotus cars, this is a place to come. It really is like being in a sweet shop. Beautiful, isn't it? And of course, you know that you want one. This is the all-new version of the Lotus Exige V6 S. The question is, how does it stack up against last year's version? Well, let's find out. So here I've parked the two next to each other now, so we can look at the Sport 350 and mine, the previous V6S, and see how they look. And we can get a bit of an idea of the visual difference. So obviously at the front here we've got this new piece on the bonnet, and they do look still pretty similar at the front, but I think it's at the back where we really see the difference. Let's have a look at the back. So if you look at the back of the new 350 now, you've got this black rear section, which really does make it look like a very popular Ferrari. Or maybe that's just me. Here we've got the glass rear section of the V6S, and now on the new one, of course, we've got this lightweight rear section instead of the glass. What to do is just lift up this section here, because it's quite interesting. When you lift this up, what you'll see now is literally, this is just, I don't know how easy it is to see from here, but it literally is just pure, it's just a pure lightweight section. There's no glass in it whatsoever. So here we are inside this Lotus Sport 350. Key new features in this car We've now got the engine start button with the sport and race mode selected on buttons, and we've got an air conditioning light that actually lights up when you switch it on, which is pretty good, because on mine you don't actually know when the air conditioning is on or off. We're going to take a little drive in it now and see how it stacks up against my V6 model. And the first thing I can say, just instantly looking out of the back window, is that of course now we have just the plastic over the back of the car rather than the glass, so it does slightly restrict my view. Anyway, let's take it for a little run. We'll go around the block and we'll see what it's like. What is the Lotus Sport 350 all about? Lotus's original plan was to take the engine out of the Evora 400 and drop it in to the Lotus Exige. However, unfortunately, the weight of the engine from the Evora 400 would have taken Lotus over their goal weight for this car. Now, Lotus have worked hard to keep to their core values of reducing weight to improve performance, and apparently that includes the engineers meeting up once a week to look at all the components that they use in their cars to try and work out if there's any way of saving weight or removing those components completely. Now, you'd think after about 6 weeks of having those meetings that you'd run out of ideas. One of the ways that Lotus worked out they could save weight was by changing some of the body panels. So the body panels in this new Sport 350 have saved around 12 kilos off the weight of the previous model. What they've also done is improve the gearbox. Now, when you look at the gearbox, it not only looks good, but it also is lighter than the previous one. So they've also managed to save weight by changing the gear change system in the car and cutting out part of the centre console. So Lotus, through playing around with the various components in this car, have made it 51 kilograms lighter than the weight of this previous model, which is the V6 S. And 51 kilos is quite a lot of weight. In fact, it's like taking my friend Alan out of the car and putting me in instead.
Look, I mean, I can get into a Mini, I can get into a Fiat 500. Shouldn't be any problems whatsoever. Look, just...
Well, let's get in it then. Yeah. Okay. You alright, Alan?
Yeah.
So the net result of all this weight saving is increased performance, and what Lotus have managed to do is reduce the 0 to 60 acceleration time from 3.8 seconds, if that wasn't fast enough, to 3.7 seconds. Okay, 0.1 of a second isn't going to make a massive difference to most of us, but it's still an improvement. This new Sport 350 does have improved handling. I'm not sure how Lotus can actually improve their handling any more than they already have on the previous model. It does seem a little bit more precise. The gear change, the manual gear change in the previous V6 was a little bit sloppy. But that's all changed in this new model, because what Lotus have done is not only make the gear change lever look even more sexy, but they've actually made the gear change itself even more slick. So when you change gear, you really do feel that sort of very tight click when you go into the next gear, and it's a very, very notable difference. I'm suddenly realising, like I did with the Porsche 718 Boxster that I tried, when you have a manual gearbox that's a really good gearbox, where you've got a really nice tight gear change, a nice click when you go into each gear, the manual definitely feels more exciting than the paddle shift box that I have. We're on some good roads now. I don't know how I found these roads. I think I'm slightly lost, but suddenly these country roads have really opened up. Change. It's really slick. Now I've heard that the Alfa Romeo 4C is sometimes referred to by enthusiasts as a mini Ferrari, in which case I would have to refer to this new Lotus Exige as a mini McLaren. Another slight minor difference in this new one, they no longer have, just on this section here where the battery is, on mine they have like a little net that allows you to store stuff in the side, and Lotus have obviously chosen to remove that. Not quite sure how much weight that's going to save.